Well, if it wasn't been for a little bit of a while now. It seems like my custom video did alright for a really small channel, I guess. So, you know what this means? It's time to suffer even more. And yeah. So, are you ready, kids? Oh, I'm willing to beg you all because we got a lot of things to talk about. Because today, we'll be showcasing a not so accurate Henry, but that doesn't matter because I'm not really trying to. So don't be too anal with them because the fact that they're not really accurate just watermarks them for me. So let's see our dear old Henry. So this project began with practically this little red train, one that I also attempted to transform into James at one point. Well, this engine, I had been with it for quite some time. I remember burying it on the ground as a supposed capsule temple, and that doesn't work. Especially since the intention was to forget about it until we and my cousin become just adults and then dug it out. But yeah, I was really stupid, which is why the engine is and was quite really dirty. Anyway, this little engine existed for quite some time. He's also S-scale, but I never found anything to do with him for quite some time. But now that I started modeling with my Thomas, I thought of something that I could do with it. And yeah. And I would also pull a few assets from the other train set to make Henry. So I started drawing out the plans for him for what I will do with him. And yeah, as you can see, this is what I was planning to do. But much like Thomas, it'll kinda change. Now, originally, he was going to have a custom bogie, but I decided to go against it in favor of using the bogie that I once had, and use a spare wheel that I also had. And now it's time for... I started by cutting every single part out of the boiler, including the funnel, which I was going to use later. I figured out that I didn't need it to cut off the side rods. I cut off the boiler, and then I, attempted to cut off the chassis. This footage you're seeing here sees me trying to push around the chassis to see if it can work properly, and not really. You see, I couldn't do anything to do it. I tried to get my aunt, my really older aunt, but I couldn't do anything. It was just not budging. So yeah, that was the first time that I was starting to just need to change up the plans. I also decided that I wasn't going to cut off the bogies and just use it like how I made my Thomas at one point. And at last, after changing some plans, I decided to remove the wheels from the chassis the same way I did with my Thomas. Though this was more later on the... I began making the chassis. It was simple enough. I just cut off the pieces necessarily and then just made the chassis. I then glued the wheels on the middle. And here's the bogie. Now here's me testing the chassis. He ran a little rough as expected, but it was fine. I then started making his running board alongside with his boiler that I just added some blue paper and his firebox, and then I taped it on his running board. Here's a size comparison between my Thomas. But then I realized that something was off. That something just didn't feel right. Henry was just not doing it for me in a way. And then it clicked. I needed to make his running board a little bit wider. Although the first one was a little bit too wide, I got it into the perfect size. I also added his funnel, which is a stack turned upside down. I also filled the holes with cardboard, and look at him now, looking so much better. I then started making a bogey system, like just with sticks. I then finally made his cab, and now tender time. I first started by extending the other tender that I already had, and then covering it with paper, blue paper, to, bring a more smooth surface. I then pulled out some knockoff Lego lorries that I had, and because they were too small, I used several of their pieces to replicate some small details on Henry's tender. I then glued the bogies and attempted to do some couplings, but it didn't work, so I made another one using Trackmaster's coupling and the other train set, and I have to reduce the bogie. Then I started to making the buffers and the couplings out of paper clips and sticks. I added some detailing on his running board, the doors on his tender, and then started making his side rods. Although being static, I started going a little bit crazy with the static side rods, and not gonna lie, it could have been worse. I'm kinda proud of myself. And I also made the cylinders. I then added the wheel arches, the handrails and the whistle, and the faceplate, and added a plate on the front of his tender, and now he's kinda running low on coal. I then added all of the clay bits and glued the buffers, and I started making his test run, and yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. The wheels keep just jamming and just getting stuck, and he always derails, so I needed to change. I tried using thinner cardboard and then added those support things to just raise up the wheels, and it worked out. And then, oh my goodness. Yeah, I broke the bogie. God damn it. So I had to glue the bogie on. Speaking of which, I glued the bogies on the tender and covered it around with tape. And then I added the tail lamp. And yeah, he runs alright. And yeah, he's done. Now it's time for... I first started with the main coat of green, and then with some red, black and white, and then I did what I should have done for the lining. You'll see what I mean by that in just a bit, like right now, which is practically painting over the paper. I then started painting the running board and the side rods and the face. The lamp kind of falls off, but I was able to fix it in the end. I then started to paint the whistle, and then I outlined his lining on the number, and let me tell you, it looks a lot better. It looks super good. Then some few other finishing touches, and then oh fuck me, I'm already done. Well, it's time for the reveal. I am incredibly proud of Henry. I managed to restore such an old engine that I never thought I would use it again, that I would have to destroy it or just keep it away because I thought that it was too big, and yet I was able to prove myself wrong by making Henry a completely unique engine using the boiler of an old engine. Which, in a funny way, that is technically accurate. I mean, Henry was a failed engine after all that got bought out and rebuilt into a Black 5. So I guess there's a very special reason why this specific engine was turned into Henry. That just makes him more special. Which makes me like him some more. Here's him besides Thomas. And yeah, Thomas kinda looks really puny. Maybe I should just make him a little bit more fatter. And he is a little bit taller than Thomas, but I'm fine with it. I am really proud with Henry, and I hope you like it. I know that he's not the most accurate model, but like, it's fine. Who cares? He's so big I even needed to do a different direction. So yeah, that was the video. I hope you like it. If you don't, that's okay. Have a lovely rest of your day, and yeah. Chulu.